What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Sugar Free TP here in the building. This is a post commentary on a game that I recorded, and I had forgotten to have my camera up and my mic up, but this was such a good game that I wanted to go ahead and put it up for you guys. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. If you don't like it, then let's go ahead and get right on into this. And let me just explain a few of the things that I was thinking. So this is the beginning of the game. You see it's the first 20 seconds of the game, and I'm just going around and I'm just setting up traps. One of the reasons I was doing this, just starting off, was because I felt like it was pretty important to start getting my leveling up right away. I didn't know what kind of survivors I was going against, and this ends up being a pretty clutch game. So I'm just going along, and the interesting thing with this one was that they start off really strong. And I'm not going to ruin anything for you because we got to leave a little bit of anticipation. But, you know, I'm just picking up things, just dropping down anything that I can. And you can see already they have the first piece. So I'm already in like, okay, we got these kinds of survivors. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and do a little bit of setting up around here since I'm already here, just to kind of see if I have to make stands at these particular locations, especially with the dagger and the pages. It's pretty challenging. And so I'm just going around looking and seeing what it is I can set up, because this might be one of those games that just doesn't end well. As you can tell, I'm still not that good, but I'm getting better. I have no idea why I got stuck there, and this was an embarrassing moment on my part, but that's totally okay. So I think my next thought here was I was going to go towards the dagger to try to set up, because typically in my experience when it comes to playing the Kandarian demon is that survivors who get like pages early are already pretty set, and so you have to make your stands simply at the places where they have to stay. And so I'm like, okay, let me just try to set up some places, try to get as much leveling as possible, because this is going to be super challenging. Now, the important thing I think for necromancer is I start to get some of my teleports, or I mean portals, for just the normal enemies, because that's going to be important. I know one of the things that I did later on for sure is traps, but it's like I felt like it's kind of weird that you need to have a good economy starting off, because especially late game or mid game, I can say, if the survivors have gotten lots of pages, like all 3 pages, then it's going to be really hard to continue keeping pressure when you run out so early. So they still haven't gotten a second page yet. I am literally on my way over there. I'm heading towards the dagger right now. I have a feeling that that they're gonna get the next page soon. So I'm feeling a little bit of a rush. And then they do this. Soon as I see that there's a vehicle being driven, I already knew right away. I was like, it's time to go. It is time to go. Get some of that action going, early game pressure, since they haven't gotten the second page yet, which is kind of surprising. Most survivors, once they get the first page, they're pretty quickly getting the second one. And for some reason, they just weren't. They got the first page within a minute, and this next one, it's been almost another 3.5-4 minutes. So I get here, and immediately pretty much the whole team is here. One's driving off by themselves. I don't know why, but I was like, it's time to go. I thought they were going to be heading this way, but they weren't. So I'm trying to catch this guy who's kind of by himself a little bit. And I start immediately setting up right here, because there are several people here. It's time to go ahead and get stuff going. And these traps here, at first I was like, this is a good spot to really start doubling down, to start getting some action in order. But I just didn't have the resources nor the strength to really start to do damage. And then I see that the page is here, so I'm like, okay, I have to stop them from doing this. I realized, at this point, I realized I didn't have enough to set up a trap. So I set this one right here. I set another one right here. And immediately they start, activating the traps, which is good. Now, if I had upgraded even at this point to getting maybe elites during the trap, I probably could have done better. But at the same time, it was really, really rough. Now, my economy at this point was pretty challenging. I had to continuously leave, just simply because there was just not enough for me to continue to do things. But it was a good point. They get the second piece, and I am already like, okay, I know where they're going. I'm going to try to get the double, which I do, so I can get more stuff to start setting up. Set up another trap. And this was really, really early game pressure for them. Now, I get killed right away, which is embarrassing. But it was great. It was great. It was great. These survivors were really good. So, of course, setting up the flautist. And immediately right away, they started listening for him to try to find him. I didn't have anything to really start to set up to protect it, which is okay. Because this early game pressure right now is what's important. Now, I realize that I literally cannot do anything else unless I get some more infernal orbs, and there was literally none in sight. So I take the time to start to put points in. Definitely take traps up to 2, get the elites so that I can start summoning them. And this was when I feel like there started to be a shift, because they're 7 minutes in and they still haven't gotten the 3rd page. And now I'm getting stronger at this point. There's one person by themselves, and that is immediately a target. I'm like, okay, let's start setting this up. Now he's just running, and so I decide to go ahead and just bail out and try to get through some of these obstacles, just simply to really get some pressure on. Because there's one guy by himself, and I'm believing that he's just heading right for the houses where the next one is. So I immediately start to go in there and set up. Now, the good thing about these traps and some of the things that are going on is that the more that you do this, the more fear they have. And this is where it starts to really affect them. See, this guy is full of fear. Nobody's actually going into the house that I had set up, which is fine. So I'm trying to keep up with this singular person who is by themselves. They're both really trying to get out there, which is a good strategy. Keep moving.
Let's do this with the lights up.
Now I choose to put into the Inferno energy so that I can actually start to get passive energy coming in, which is going to be super important, especially later on in the game. Now, I don't know what I was doing at this point. I thought that maybe he was going to stay still. So there's a guy in here by himself, and I think that he's doing his points. So I decided to go ahead and get the scare out on him. Drop another elite. No, that was a common. I'm sorry. Drop a common, and then also I think I set up a trap as well right here. Nope. So right now the pressure's on. They don't have enough time to sit and continuously look for things because I'm right there on them. And then I finally get elite traps, which means that all the traps that they trigger now are all going to have elites. And now I haven't strengthened my elites yet, but getting trapped elites is amazing, especially at this point in the game, because it's going to bring a lot of pressure. Now, they all opt to go in the same direction. One is driving a vehicle. So I choose here as I always have, and this is one of the things that I would always say, try to target out one person. If a person's by themselves, it is super important to try to get them as low as possible. Once you get a knockdown, it makes it a lot easier to start to focus on other parts of the team. That's why staying together is so important. This is a really good spot right here. There's a lot of things around. They have to get the pages, but I'm also able to drop elites, drop commons, and it's really bringing on the pressure right now. They finally get the third piece. I set up the flautist. Now everything in that area is going to be empowered. And this is going to cause a lot of issues.
Never get enough of it.
Now I don't have enough to possess, which I think, now that I've looked back on it, if I had taken more time to possess more people, I probably could have done a lot more early game damage. But this guy chooses to literally drive off by himself. And at this point, I'm in route. I'm in chase. I'm like, okay, if this is where we're going, this is what we're going to do. He wants to get out there early, but leaving your team behind is such a bad idea. I finally get the boss, which is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to give me a lot of strength, especially in the upcoming battles. Evil Ash is so good. So good. He puts on insane pressure when he jumps out, especially because he can summon more enemies. He can revive, not summon more enemies, summon more allies. He can revive. He can do all kinds of amazing things. And this, in this particular moment, this is not going to be good for him. Because now I'm in, Flautist is in, and I'm going to literally be doing crazy good damage against him. And he can't do anything because he's literally surrounded. This is one of the things that, especially as Survivor, you definitely don't want to do. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're by yourself. Now he manages to dodge heal, which is fine, but what can he do? He literally can only walk around and try to dodge. And you see that insane damage with the Flautist, 177 a hit. Boom. There we go. Look, what can he do? Down. Jumped. Now the pressure's on. The team is like, okay, what are we going to do? So immediately I see this guy by himself, kind of, or at least I target him out. And then, you know, he gets back to the team like a smart person. But those animations. Oh no! So immediately during this time, I actually begin to summon more. Now I probably should have continued going after the singular person, but I think at this point it really didn't matter. I had low health, and it was important for me to just go ahead and get as much damage off as possible. Bring out the Flautist, which, once again, I mean, if you stay long enough as a... Ooh, that one was a bad miss on my part. Trying to get a little bit of extra. But they're in a really bad spot at this point. One person is gone. They actually DC'd. Now I realize that that chest had already been opened, so right now the pressure's on. It's 3 on me, and this is where it definitely gets harder for them, because the more and more that time goes on, even in this particular situation, the harder it is for them to overcome. Because once I start pumping out the boss more often, especially stronger, and I'm reviving and bringing back other things, it is so difficult to come back from. Now everything's on a cooldown at this point, and I was just kind of waiting. There isn't much that I can do here. So yes, at this point, I believe that I start to consider going to the next zone just to prepare because it is such a far away place with it being 800 yards away and with it about to close in. I knew that I was going to be expelled, so I choose to try to get away. Get some more for there we go. Exercise, which isn't necessarily too bad on my part. It actually brings me a lot closer, saving me some time in hindsight. So it actually is kind of better for me, even though I don't have full energy. But this gives me ample time to go set up in this next zone. And it's only 3 of them, so it's going to be really, really difficult because once one person's gone, the pressure is gone. Now, I can tell you, foreshadowing this moment, that I spend probably 2 minutes literally going around and setting up every single thing in this area. They have a long way to go. Last time I checked, it was I believe it was over 800 meters. So they have a long distance. So even if they're driving, it's going to take them a little bit of time. But you come to see later on that they actually don't even drive. Now, as I'm actually scouting this area, if you ever get this area, okay, see, these are the moments that really I think are just buggy moments where you're close, but it doesn't let you set up. Just some things that just early game, like it should be a lot easier than like you have to look in a specific spot, but that's neither here nor there. So going and gathering more energy. And now I set up my traps for the elite and for the common. So now when they come within the area, they're going to set up traps. And so at this point, I realized something. So I'm looking at the distance, and I can set up a flautist kind of back here in the back area, and they would have to completely leave the area to try to stop it because the flautist area is about 45 meters, I think, somewhere around there. And so as I'm looking around, I'm like, wait, where can I put the flautist? And so I begin to notice some good spots right here in particular. In that little garage there was such a good spot to place the flautist. So if you ever get this particular zone, put it back there because they have to completely leave. Now at this point, I do know that they're driving a car, so I have a little bit of time, but not a whole lot. I go ahead and take my infernal energy all the way up, which is going to help incredibly. As you can see, I literally have stayed in the area this entire time, and to me it was the best option, so that no matter where they decide to, like, if they have to run away, that every square inch where there is possibly a trap will spawn traps, and because they're elites, it's just going to make it that much better. So this was a really, really tough one for the survivors to come into, because there's literally so many traps in this area. And I feel like they should find more areas that are similar to this for the demon to put more traps down, because there are some areas where there's literally maybe one trap, and it makes it incredibly difficult for the demon to actually like make a dent sometimes. But that's when you're going up against an incredibly good team. So you can see right here, we've got about 10.5 minutes left. I'm still setting up, even going outside of the zone, just in case, depending on where they go. If they want to go scavenge right outside, I wanted to make sure that every area, every square inch was set. And now when you look at the map, they're still not close. So this is one of the moments I think when I look back at it, especially as a survivor. So I'm starting to judge the distance that I can put the flautist because I know we're coming up to a pretty big battle right here. So as I mentioned earlier, there's this building, and I really utilize this building when it comes to the flautist. Right here. Because now I can set up a trap on both sides. It's in 29 yards. I don't know why I kept saying meters, yards. Yeah, I decide to amplify the portal for the elites, just to get them strengthened. And we're coming close to the final battle. So this is one of those moments, I think that this was the worst placement for survivors. Because there's no way, like with everything that was set up and the time that I had to set up, that it was going to be an easy fight. It'd be one thing if they were a lot closer. But I think that during this time, they were doing their best to scavenge. To find things that would probably be helpful to them. And so as I go to try to find where they were, I realize they come from behind. And at this point in time, it's game on. Now remember that spot that I said earlier, right in here. I can put the flautist, and I can set up a trap right in front of the flautist, so that when they do try to get it, the trap is set. So at this point in time, this is the hardest part for me. There is so many enemies, and you can see the one guy who is over to the left, he's going to try to get the flautist, and he's going to set off traps, and everything around is just going to be everywhere. So he does oh, okay. So I finally possess him to stop him from actually taking the flautist out, just to get him away for a second, because that pressure is going to be put on his teammates. Now he's bleeding out. This was just an awful moment for them to really accomplish anything. Now at this point, I don't have much energy, but I have the resources in the sense of the units around, and at this point in time I believe that I lose possession of right here. There's another guy who's down. He's currently being revived. Now I realize I can actually put this trap up again because they have to come over here. Same thing with the tree. And this was just a deadly zone because there's so much happening. This guy's by himself, which is very unfortunate. Set up a trap. Instantly. And this is where you can see that it's just a slippery slope. Here comes, of course, Evil Ash. Now he's got the invincibility frames here, but it does not stop what Ash is about to do. Evil Ash brings so much pressure. Now I should have set up the flautist early before this, but I wanted to create as much pressure as possible. Now look, two guys are super close. One's down, the other one's about to go down. But I run out, I take over Ash, miss, hit him, stop him from the revive. Now I'm expelled. But I can literally just continue to do this, dropping more units. And this is where you can tell already this is not going to be a good situation. You can tell that this is what you would consider the end part of the game. They have 5 minutes left. You not only have to fight off everything, there's one guy and the flautist is up. This is where the game's truly over. And I wanted to share this game because this was actually a pretty important one, because it says one thing, like, don't give up. Don't give up. And this guy does amazing. He does amazing. He dodges literally everyone. I attempt to try to stop him. He gets in the car, and he books it. Now this is a thing that I think he made a mistake on. He didn't have any health, and he tries to go back to get the lives of his friends with no health. And right here is where it's all over. And that's what I call GGs. These guys did an amazing job, even with just 3 of them. But the way that they let me set up, it was just not going to be a good game. So that is the end of my match. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.